The pursuit of good and evil are now linked in astronomy, as in almost all science. The fate of the human civilization will depend on whether the rockets of the future carry the astronomer's telescope or the hydrogen bomb.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Do.
How are you, Matthew?
I'm okay, thank you, Jamie. Was that your impression of Sir Bernard Lovell?
Well, I think that's exactly how he spoke.
Do you know what? I'm going to have to go on YouTube and see if there's any good clips of Bernard Lovell speaking.
There you go. I think you'll find I nailed it.
Do you know what? It's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Sir Alfred Charles Bernard Lovell. Amazing.
Wherever you are in the universe.
Brilliant stuff.
He passed away in 2012 and born in 1913 on this very day. And if you don't know who Bernard Lovell was, he wasn't Jim Lovell's brother or anything like that.
No.
No. But you know what? I was thinking about Jim Lovell. Is Jim Lovell currently the most bang-out living astronaut?
Might actually be, right?
I think he might be. But anyway, this is Bernard Lovell, Sir Alfred Charles Bernard Lovell, who is an English physicist and radio astronomer. And he got a knighthood for his development of radio astronomy.
Oof.
And you know what?
Do it.
What he's really famous for is the Lovell telescope, the Lovell thing. The Lovell telescope, basically.
Did you just say the Lovell thing?
The Lovell thing.
He'd love that.
He'd have loved
that.
That thing up at Jodrell Bank.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. There's one ace story that I absolutely love about Bernard Lovell, which I never knew about, but we'll get onto that. He studied physics at the University of Bristol. Yeah. And got his Bachelor of Science and then his PhD in 1936.
Nice.
But he's also a church organist.
No way. Bit of the pipes.
Do you know what? Church organs are immense, aren't they? Like, actually,
they're pretty amazing.
If you ever get the chance, sit behind a church organ and play it, because it's absolutely genius.
I might give that a go.
Find a church and do a bit of Bach staccato. It's absolutely incredible.
Can I play? Is it acceptable to play some Ozzy Osbourne?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Actually, do you remember that in The Simpsons when Bart played the organ and he went all kind of like metal?
No.
And they all held up their candles. It's brilliant.
Wasn't that season 23, episode 7?
God, if you got that right.
Can you imagine? So he worked in the cosmic ray research team at the University of Manchester.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at the outbreak of the Second World War, he started developing radar systems that were installed on aircraft. And I believe he actually was involved in the very, very first radar system that was installed on an aircraft, which meant...
I was going to say, this all sounds so cutting edge, but this was a long time ago.
A long time ago, and it was cutting edge. So then, once war had finished, he returned to Manchester with his new radar that he took from the military. He sort of took it home and he tried to study cosmic rays, but he realised that the trams going up and down Oxford Road in Manchester, a road I know very well, were interfering. So it basically couldn't do any of the work that he wanted to. So he found out that the university had a botany department in Goostrey in Cheshire, and set up his experiments there. And the very first thing he did was show that you could look at daytime meteor showers using it.
Wow.
And then, so he then built the Lovell telescope at the Jodrell Bank Observatory. And it's still, of course, an absolutely iconic telescope 50 years on. And remember, we were talking about Earth rotation angle when we were talking about sidereal time.
I remember.
Sidereal time. Merlin is this European VLBI network of interferometric array of radio telescopes, including the Lovell telescope.
I love that it's still used and today.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Absolutely. Of course, it's the backdrop of the Blue Dot Festival and all those kind of things.
Of course.
But here's my favourite story about him. So in 2009, at the Deep Space Communications Centre, he recalled a story about how the Russians tried to assassinate him.
Oh.
Of course, the Lovell telescope was used to track Sputnik, and he went over to Russia to sort of visit their facilities. And he was left in a room. He said it was really odd. He was sort of left in a room on his own. And he only published this story after his death. So this was in his diaries.
Right.
And he was left in a room, and he thinks he was poisoned with radioactivity to try and wipe his brain of any information that he'd found.
Oh, my God.
On his trip to Yevpatoria.
It's not like the Russians, is it?
No, not like the Russians to try and kill a British citizen with radiation.
Oh, dearie me.
But he was actually in Russia at the time, in Crimea. They failed to wipe his memory, but he'd written it all down in his diary anyway. But his wife said she scarcely recognised him as the person she had seen in England a week earlier.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. And basically, he said, in the midst of happiness which surrounded me, it was as though all life had suddenly turned to dust and ashes. That's how he felt for weeks and weeks and weeks until...
I was going to say, did he get better?
He did. Apparently, he suddenly started feeling better after a holiday to Ireland.
Well, that'll do it for you. It's the Guinness, Matt. I keep telling you.
Yeah, the Guinness. So basically, Guinness is a cure for radiation poisoning.
Or it's like we say down in County Cork, it's mother's milk.
So not only did they try and kill him with radiation, they also, wipe his mind with radiation. They asked him to defect as well. They said, "Would be very glad if you stay in Russia and we build a telescope for you." And he replied, "Thank you, Mr. President, but I am an Englishman and wish to return to England."
God save her.
Yeah, so...
That's brilliant, though. What an absolute... I mean, I loved him before, but now I really love him.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely genius. And he gave the Wreath lectures and Macmillan Memorial lectures. So he's...
Matt, let's put a photo of him up on our social media.
Big time.
In honour.
Abso-blooming-lutely. Space Legend of the Week, Bernard Lovell.
Well, Matt, it's on to our favourite feature.
Yes.
I said this last week, but people are going absolutely batshit crazy for this. So let's do it, Matt. It's time for
Space Word of the Week.
Matt, can you explain to me block?
Block. Yeah, do you know what? It took me ages, really, to understand when people call things the block, like Falcon 9 Block 5.
And it was only when I explained it to you that you finally got it.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
No, absolutely. So shall I have a go at trying to tell the listeners how you explained it to me?
I'll stop you if you go wrong. So have a go.
So yeah, the term block comes from the US Air Force and it really is the word data block. So I think they painted this data block usually underneath the cockpit so you could tell what the aircraft was, but the block number is kind of the version. So it is a version thing. So you can understand that kind of why these rockets have the name block afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not the fact that there's an extra bit to the rocket that's a new block. It's just the numbering system is a block of letters, a data block.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you.
You've nailed it, Matt.
Thanks. So, for example, the Boeing B-17F was the 17th bomber that Boeing had, and F, obviously, was the 5th major variation of it. And I think this was the first Boeing aircraft to carry this block number system because there were so many aircraft being ordered at the time, just during the war and just after the war that that they were having to go through these things, and they didn't want to change the model number if they were just doing some minor variations. So block numbers were multiples of 5 beginning with 5. So it would be 05 would be your first variant. But initially they incremented in 1, 2, 3, 4, but they realised that you could do amendments in the field, so that if you did this amendment in the field, you could just up it a notch. So, for example, the F100D85, if you amended it in the field, could become the F100D86. But normally, so 05, so the B17F. 05 would be the initial block, and B17F10 would be the next minor variation, and so on. So 15,
Matt, we're
20.
all learning today.
Yeah.
We're all learning. I mean, apart from me, but we're all learning.
Mm-hmm. And in that block as well, you would sometimes have the manufacturer and plant where it was built. So, for example, the F15E50, that would be the, what would that be? The 5th variation of the F-15E, MC standing for McDonnell Douglas, St. Louis, Missouri plant. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks. So when it comes to spacecraft and rockets, block refers to a change to successive variants within the same design configuration. So Apollo Block 1 was capable of Earth orbit flights, but no docking capability. So Apollo Block 2 was capable of the full moon mission. Is that right, Jamie?
That's correct. Yeah.
So tell me about
smashing this, Matt, so far.
Thanks. So tell me about Falcon 9. What was the Block 1? Because it wasn't called Falcon 9 Block 1, was it?
No, it was called version 1.0, Matt.
Yeah. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just called the Falcon 9 when it was version 1. I don't know.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was just version 1.
Okay. And what about Block 2?
Block 2 was version 1.1. So it's 60% heavier with 60% more thrust. There we go. That's version 1.1. Block 3, full thrust.
Oh, before you've got... Did you know what? Block 2, the thing that I love about Block 2 is the OctaWeb engine configuration. So on version 1, they didn't have that beautiful circle of engines with the one in the middle. They had it in kind of... It looked like a 9 on a dice.
Isn't OctaWeb a Avengers character?
Is it? No,
it sounds like it, though.
It sounds like a Roland synth. Have you tried the new
actually.
Roland OctaWeb?
Try the new... Listen to the tonal shaping of the new OctaWeb. You love that, Matt, I say that,
I do.
you?
I love...
Tickles you.
It does.
Tickles you every
It's
time.
Jamie buzzword bingo.
It is. So, Matt, Block 3, full thrust. Cryogenics give the booster 17% more thrust. And then you've got Block 4.
Well, you can't go Block 3 without saying that it was the first of the Falcon 9s to successfully land and refly.
I wanted you to be picked up on that.
Okay.
A+. A little bit slow. Block 4, lots of incremental stuff, Matt.
And that was the first one that was called Block 4, right? So it was actually called...
That was Block 4.
Falcon 9 Block 4.
And then on. And then Block 5. So that's Block 5, uprated thrust and improved legs. Final version. I wish I could get some improved legs, Matt, after the long run I did.
Are you on... which block number are you? Jamie Franklin Block what?
It's Jamie Franklin Block 7.
You Block 7. You've had... You're old hardware,
I've had a few upgrades. Yeah. I'm like Nexus 6, but one better. Nice.
If you were a plane, you would be Jamie Franklin -35.
Exactly.
Boom.
So I roll.
So what's happening in the news, Jamie?
Well, Matt, the first Ascan to quit before spaceflight for the first time in 50 years.
Ascan. I love that phrase.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, Ascan. Astronaut candidate. Yes. Rob Cullen or Rob Cullen. Rob Cullen. I'm going to go with Cullen.
It's Cullen.
Rob Cullen, 35, is the first person to not complete his spaceflight training in 50 years. Isn't that incredible?
Do we know what happened?
No, I don't think there is an official reason yet. He said for personal reasons, but we don't know what those are. But
yeah,
I actually think if you think of the sacrifice that you have to make for space training, And someone put it very eloquently in some of the comments I've been seeing online. It says, you spend 10 years in NASA, you have multiple degrees, you have passed all the physical and technical tests, you go out and do the demos and put on the smile for the cameras. Then when you finally fly, you spend a couple of days in space and you're done.
Yeah.
And you think, and presumably, you have to miss your family. There's a high divorce rate. The salary is pretty low. It's only about $65,000 to $100,000. Well, I say low, but that's not great, is it? For considering that it's how full on the job is, and the fact that he's the first in 50 years is actually incredible, isn't it? Don't you think that is
incredible? It's surprising.
It's actually surprising.
But, I mean, I think if you want to be an astronaut, I mean, blimey, is there any more a tenacious conquest, Matt?
Yeah, I exactly.
They're a driven bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. If you think of all the training he's gone through, like in the pool,
oh God, and just
in the
Matt, when we were talking
jets.
about the books that we've read, where they go to Russia, learn Russian, and then learn rocket science in Russian.
Yeah,
it's completely mental.
It's so much to do, and there's Mike Massimino squashing his eyes and training his eyes for hours on end every day just to get through. I mean, it's incredible. So he's departed from the 2017 class, the Turtles, which leaves him with only 11 members. But he's got quite an exciting background. He used to be a commercial fisherman in Alaska. He used to be an ice driller in Antarctica.
No way.
Yeah. And then he worked as a senior manager for flight reliability at SpaceX.
God, what a mix.
Yeah, where he's worked since 2011. So there's a little bit of a thing that maybe he's leaving because he wants to get the job as the pilot of the BFR.
I reckon that's why.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Definitely.
So, do you know who the person 50 years ago was?
Oh, I don't know. Tell me.
He sounds very Welsh, this guy, but I'm sure he's not. He must have been American. John Llewellyn.
Oh, Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
Very Welsh.
And he was a member of the 6th group of trainees and the second scientist astronaut group in 1967. And he just said, I'm just not cut out for flying jets. That's the reason why he
quit. Fair play to him.
Yeah. So one other big thing in the old in news today, Jamie, is the...
Well, I think I know what you're going to say. Are you going to say about the hole in the space station?
There's a hole
that
in
had
the
to be
space
covered
station.
with gaffer tape?
With a bit of gaffer tape.
Please, can English people stop calling it duct tape?
Yeah, it's gaffer tape.
If you're American, that's fine. It's gaffer tape. Please. Thank you.
Hey, Jamie, I've just put on some duct tape.
Hey, buddy, you got any duct tape?
No, old bean, but I do have some gaffer tape. Sorry to all English people.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
So, no.
We're getting like Family Guy, Matt, where we're just offending everyone.
Yeah. So, there's a small leak on the International Space Station. I don't mean another reference to the Welsh. It's a little tiny leak. So Rogozin, the old Russian boss of the space program in Russia, he told the Russian news agency that there was a microfracture caused by a micrometeoroid impact, and it's coming from the Soyuz MS-09 spacecraft, which took Alexander Gerst, etc., up in June.
Space junk.
So, who knows? It might have been a bit of space junk. It might have been, just something from outer space. Might have even been a tiny interstellar traveller. Who knows? But, it's gone and punctured a tiny, tiny, tiny hole, 2 millimetres in diameter.
Wait a minute, Matt.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's think about this for a second. If it was a tiny interstellar traveller and it went into the space station and they've covered up the hole, it could potentially come back to Earth when the space station is retired, and that's panspermia all over again. I mean, Matt, do you realise what this could mean?
It could It could mean all sorts
This
of things.
could be the second evolution.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm going to write a song.
Can we finish the podcast before you go and do your song?
Yeah, okay.
Good. So yeah, it was fixed. Actually, it wasn't gaffer tape or duct tape. It was fixed with Captain tape, which I love this. So Captain is it's a DuPont developed Captain. It's like a polyamide film that is used all over the place in space because it's got this ridiculous stability across all these vast temperature ranges. So printed circuit boards are often on Captain. But yeah, Captain tape is what they've used to fix the leak, and then they're going to do a more comprehensive long-term repair, according to NASA officials.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, so there's an onboard repair kit.
So don't panic, people.
So don't panic. So
no one was hurt.
Yeah.
It was all okay.
Did you know that James Webb Telescope sun shield is made from Captain tape? Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah. Bit of gaffer tape. Stolen it
There
all
you
together.
go. I'll sleep tonight.
So we've got, of course, it's that time of the month, Jamie.
Oh, please tell me we've got a David Baker interview.
We've got a DBI, David Baker interview. Now, there is a bit...
I look forward to these.
There is a bit in this interview where Dave and I get a bit carried away about how ace ESA is and how much better we are than NASA.
Well, everyone knows that.
So I thought we'd play a little game before, and the answers will be after the interview. If you
Matt, we haven't played a game in 8. What's the game called?
The game is called ESA versus NASA game. Why is Terry and June the theme music for the ESA versus NASA game? It's quite good.
It's kind of like sounded like a sort of quiz game music.
Okay, so here we go.
Let's do it.
Question 1: which space agency spends the most money?
It's not a tough one, is it?
Well, answers after the interview. Question 2:
which has the most active satellites?
Wow.
Is that ESA or NASA?
ESA or NASA? Which of the space agencies has the most astronauts currently in space? Question 3.
Question 4. Which has the most launch vehicles? Is it ESA or NASA?
I tell you what, that's going to be as contentious as hell. Definitely going to get some emails on that one.
Oh, bring it on.
Which of the space agencies has the most interplanetary missions and probes, including rovers? Current, they're active. They all have to be active, okay? So, let's go shall we go to David Baker interview?
Let's do it.
Écoutez. Hello, David. How are you?
Hello, Matt. I'm just absolutely fine, thank you, and managing to survive the heat and now the more autumnal feel to the weather.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit since the last time I spoke to you, even though it doesn't seem that long ago that I did speak to you. Although, actually, saying that, I'm in Cornwall, and it's actually quite hot.
Oh, I envy you. Lovely county. Or should I say country?
Right. So, David, what have we got this week? Or this month, I should say.
Well, the current issue of Spaceflight magazine has majored very significantly on NASA at 60, because, of course, this year we're celebrating the birthday of the origin of NASA. But I've looked in this issue. There's about 25 pages there, which is looking at the current situation with NASA, because in a way I'm trying to shift the center of gravity away from always focusing on the history of NASA, because it seems that we're in great danger of living on the legacy reputation of NASA as an iconic, almost marketing brand globally. I mean, who hasn't heard of NASA? Everybody instantly knows. But they think of moon missions in Apollo, they think of shuttle, and then come to a grinding halt. So what I'm trying to do is, with my mantra of all that you've seen is merely a prelude of what is to come, I think it's nice to throw it forward and to look exactly at what the challenges for NASA are. We've looked in this issue of Spaceflight at the Space Launch System and its competitive position with the whole arrangement of the commercial vehicles. And we have looked also at just exactly what NASA does cost. And I think actually we did touch on a few of these things in the last podcast. But indeed it is looking back at this 60th anniversary. And I was minded, and I think you and I, Matt, discussed the fact that this year is a whole year of remembering that transformation of the old National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which had been formed in 1915, into the new National Aeronautics and Space Administration in 1958 in direct response to Sputnik. So don't you feel it's perhaps of interest to see how NASA has changed in those decades?
I'll tell you one thing that you mentioned, that the NASA branding. I'll give you two examples of how NASA branding is so much better than everyone else's.
Right.
This morning on the news, we had the OSIRIS-REx mission mentioned because it's nearing its target.
It is.
And you think, but Hayabusa 2 is actually at the target and doing stuff, and that hasn't been on the news. And you think, it's really bizarre. They're very similar missions, and one is of no interest and one is of lots of interest at a sort of, even at a national news level. And I visited ESOC earlier this week, and it's one of those trips that, had it have been at NASA and that kind of look around at NASA, there would have been hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing it, and there was just a handful of us, which was great. But we're called Earth groupies. But it was quite obvious. It's just that whole. The kind of branding of NASA is supreme, but you're right, it all harks back to moon missions and the kind of iconic stuff, and Apollo 13 even, and things like that.
Yes, and if NASA has done no more than lay the foundation for its metamorphosis by delivering to the commercial and the broader world a set of possibilities that would never have existed had NASA not been formed.
So how do you think NASA are transforming? Because the way I see it is, they're spending an awful lot of money on hardware to get into space, and is that really the direction that it should be going, or should they be concentrating on the science and facilitating it?
Well, I'm sure you're right, and I think that I think I discussed this last month on your podcast, Matt, that there's far too much on the supply side and not enough on the demand side. And Space Station is a classic example of that. The billions have been thrown at this incredible engineering achievement, but actually the engineering is an enabler, or should be, for the product that will come through the science and the research and development that goes on. And yet the push behind the research and the scientific experimentation has always been pushing this great rock uphill in trying to find government money, when Congress is saying, oh, well, surely it's the private sector. We've provided this, we've built it, why won't they come? And I think that is the problem. The fact that there's so much government-led front-end hardware been thrown at this that there's not enough, when all the supply-side expenditure has been spent, there's not enough left over for the demand and the productivity end. And I think that is the problem. But in the very transformation of NASA itself, if you back that off and look at what NASA has enabled and given the opportunity to provide, I mean, the subsidy for the commercial companies was the key enabler to get these commercial organizations off the ground, literally. And if it hadn't have been for subsidy, where, depending on how you do the math on all of this, between a third and a half of all the money that has gone into developing the commercial side, it's come from the taxpayer. These are not... I get really quite frustrated when it's acclaimed in the media generally, not in the specialist media who know about these things, but in the general media, referred to as these billionaire playboys throwing their money at space, and sometimes in a very negative way, as though, oh, this is not real economy stuff, this is not really driving business, it's just billionaires playing around with useless toys. And it's not the case at all. The billionaires have the money there, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, people like that, but Paul Allen. But you've got to have a base upon which these guys, who are pretty grounded economically, I mean, they might have a very, all the way from weird and wacky to debonair attitudes to the way they present themselves. But fundamentally, they're interested in making money. And underpinning all of their passion is that. And they're not about to lose their shirt on ridiculous things that are not going to provide a return. And Elon Musk is the arch example of that. Forget the Tesla side of his operation. That's a whole different thing. We all know, that's up for question. But on the space side, he has been controlled, cool, ice cool in the way he has maneuvered his money and the investments in SpaceX into a highly revenue-rich product with dozens and dozens and dozens of launches backing up way into the future, creating a Falcon Heavy that nobody said would work, and even Elon Musk said was likely to fall apart even before it got off the pad. We all remember his fear that his greatest fear about this was it wouldn't get far enough away before it blew up so as not to damage the pad. And here it was a roaring success. And that is a result of a market that really has been created by NASA. But there's a lot in the mix here, isn't there? And you were raising this business about the fact that it's the go-to, everybody knows it, acronym, NASA, picked up by the media, but in actual fact, in many ways, the European Space Agency is actually outperforming NASA in quite a number of sectors that don't get attribution simply because ESA is not as big a buzz phrase at all, even within
not even
Europe,
close
compared to NASA. But even if you can't speak English, you say NASA and people's eyes light up, and we've all experienced that in road spaces around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the European thing, it was great walking around ESOC and seeing all those fantastic missions that are happening. Particularly, I mean, things like Gaia. It's like, why is that? It should be really big news, shouldn't it? That we've got these, partially built in Britain, a lot of these satellites, and the amount of English people that were working at ESOC was incredible. All these great engineers and scientists. It was fab to see. But you hear nothing, but you don't hear much about it. And I really like the direction that ESA have gone in, particularly with the Earth observation element of it, because we're now presumably Europe is the world leader in that area.
Oh yes, and indeed the UK has played a very significant part and majored in that from a couple of decades ago, didn't it? That Earth observation and Earth science was to be the very core of focus in initially a very mediocre and lackluster UK government support for space, which now in the last 5 years has changed dramatically for the good, certainly. But it's very interesting reflecting back that ESA is the only national space agency that had an architecture that was defined by the requirements of the member countries, because every other space agency in the world has been politically instituted in order to create a competitor base with another foreign country's challenge. NASA began purely as a political tool to make America big compared to what the Russians were achieving in the late 1950s. Its mandate was that, and it was very mediocre. The predecessor organization, the NACA, formed in 1915, and for those aeronautically minded who are listening, the NACA was very much the equivalent of the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough, which was the very core of British formal research and development in aircraft engineering and the principles of flight and flying scientifically. The NACA came along after the Royal Aircraft Establishment had been formed and became essentially an advisory body doing a tremendous amount of research, which really made its stunning reputation in the 1920s and 1930s for its wind tunnels and its research facilities and the aerofoil sections that the NACA identified were picked up and taken off the shelf, as it were. Each aerofoil shape, each sectional shape of a wing platform was applicable to a particular type of aircraft requirement, be it a commercial aircraft for long range, a light aircraft, a military aircraft, a bomber, or a fighter. That was the very core. And so it was the organization that in 1958 inherited all these space projects from everybody else in the United States in order to homologate together all of the capabilities that were disparate and dispersed among competing elements in the military, among scientific operations such as the Vanguard rocket program, which, although it was majored by the Naval Research Laboratory, was essentially a pseudo non-military operation. Even the very first man in space program for NASA, the Mercury program, was inherited from the Air Force that wanted a capsule that could precede the dinosaur boost glide strike system and reconnaissance system. And that was imported into the new NASA, where the NACA had been doing some work on the development of shapes for the capsule. But it was just supposed to be a precursor to winged boost glider military vehicles. The Army had Huntsville with von Braun, so that Development Operations Division of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency was imported into NASA, and the Army and Air Force planetary programs, which had been supported by JPL, were inducted, and that's where JPL became the big lead in planetary research. So NASA didn't originate anything. It simply built on what the rest of the development community among the military and the civilian operations in America bequeathed to NASA. And yet here you've got the European Space Agency in the mid-1970s being formed by direct mandate of need and requirement in science and research, and the engineering was made to serve the science, whereas in NASA, science has been made to serve, or rather, engineering has been there as the prime development motivator. And NASA is very good at making things, but has been very difficult and very hard at sustaining a continuity without tearing everything up and starting again. We've seen that multiple times with both the manned, the planetary, and the permanent occupation, actually, of facilities in space. NASA can't make this work. The space station is not working for what it was designed to be. It is a fantastic opportunity, but it's not working in the way it was expected to be. And so, in looking back at what NASA is in its relationship to the other space agencies, ESA is the only one that stands out as having been functionally derived from need rather than political posturing.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, the space station, if that has been in some ways a failure because they've not been able to, make it work on a commercial level. When all of that starts to be, hopefully not deorbited, but if it is deorbited, and then we're left with the LOP-G, the lunar platform, what's your feelings on? Because that presumably is going to be so much more expensive to run and so much more dangerous and so many more elements to it that. Well. Is this really a project that they should be undertaking? Is the Lunar Gateway as good a project as it seems on paper, or is it really going to be a bit of a white elephant for NASA?
Well, being brutal about this, I think there is quite a substantive balance of evidence to say that once again it is the product of a rocket looking for a job, which is the Space Launch System. And it was thrown at NASA as a requirement when Obama walked away from big government ticket human spaceflight projects and canceled Constellation in 2010. And you've essentially got, this is the latest, isn't it, in a whole series of proposals on what to use the Space Launch System for. But the problem with Space Station was that it was never built as a scientific research facility. Nobody knew what space could deliver back in the 1970s and early 1980s when the initial idea of the space station was launched. The space station was launched because Reagan wanted a tool to exceed the accomplishments of the then Soviet Union. And so Space Station Freedom in the early 1980s, and John Hodge, a British-born Canadian who came down to work on the Mercury program and the Gemini and did a lot of mission planning in the Apollo program, and then headed up the Space Task Group to find out what NASA should do big time next, in parallel with the initial indoctrination of the shuttle into operational missions. And so the space station, which had always been looming there in the background of NASA's tick box list of things it would desire to have, and again, following on the von Braun paradigm initially, NASA got elbowed out from having a space station initially by the Kennedys, by Kennedy, who deflected NASA by immediately seizing the moon opportunity. And that destabilized NASA, from which it has never come back from. The NASA between 1958 and 1961 had a very strong consolidated work it as you go methodology. And it was very clear to see suddenly in comes Kennedy and everything's changed. Everything's different. This guy who wasn't interested in space at all, who looked within a matter of weeks of coming into power at the budget he was inheriting, fiddled around a bit with space, added a little bit more for the Saturn launch vehicle funding, and did nothing else. And then all of a sudden we get the Bay of Pigs fiasco toppling him politically in the world, in the eyes of the uncommitted nations to which he was appealing for allegiance, and we get Gagarin. And so he turns in fury to Lyndon Johnson and says, find me something to do to beat the Russians. And so we got Apollo. In the Reagan years, during the big military build-up, Reagan wanted to put in an inertia, and I remember this very well. It was the big, in Washington at the time where I was very, very involved at this period, in the very early 1980s, up in Washington after I'd left Houston, there was this great feeling that Reagan was itching for big, big power pressure, much as Kennedy had sought Apollo as a means of countering a ballooning Russian runaway. And we saw the massive runaway after years of apathy in the defense world through the Carter administration and the Ford years. Suddenly Reagan comes back with massive inflation of the defense budget in order to counter what was the last hurrah of the Soviet Union as we knew in its last decade. We never could have predicted it to be that close. But the Russians were pushing and surging heavily, and we knew they were working on a potential shuttle equivalent. And when I went to Space Nikolodok in 1982 and was shown around by Leonov and Shatalov and nod over to a building, and Leonov said to me in 1982, that's where our shuttle will be, meaning the simulator. And these things were not exactly locked up in the secret files of the CIA. They were being talked about on the streets, in the space centers in Washington and in Moscow. So Reagan wanted another spectacular. Oh, I'll have a space station. NASA's been talking about that. It knows how to build one. But there was never a functional purpose as to what the thing was going to do. It was just an equivalent to Mir as it emerged. And that was the problem. And so here we go again. We don't know what we're going to do in space. We can't find any real reason for it. Do we want to go to Mars? Do we want to go to the moon surface? All very good and aspirational in and of themselves, but there's no methodological procedure. And this scattergun approach just persists in America. And this is the real core problem. And this is why the European Space Agency, with a fraction of the budget, is outperforming in many sectors. And not a lot of people like to hear that, except those within ESA itself, because they're not getting the credit they deserve.
No, absolutely not. The way that you've portrayed that whole story there just feels like NASA's been very reactionary to global politics and their change of leadership continually. So they've probably hugely underperformed because it's not been long-term there's been no real long-term vision about what they were going to do, and it must have been very, very frustrating for the von Brauns and people like that at NASA who clearly did have long-term visions with what they wanted to do.
You know, Matt, there was 3 years. There was 50, 58, essentially 58, because from the spring of 58 we knew that NASA was going to be formed. So there was 58, 59 and 60 when NASA had, and I've got all of the 10-year projection documents from that very, very, very early period. And there was a sequential developmental flow. Eisenhower would not have NASA run amok with the public purse in the way that Kennedy offered it to NASA. Doubling of the budget every single year for 5 years, taking it from a few $100 million to $5 billion in 5 years. And nothing like this had happened in peacetime before. And the moment the political machine seized NASA and used it to the advantage of the political profile of USA Incorporated, then that was when it all went south. And that was really when NASA has never been able to liberate itself since from being a tool of the political machine, fought out with much acrimony between the White House and Congress, who very often differ, but each of them have torn apart NASA's own long-term planning. You don't have that in ESA. You have it from the user community up, and then the Council of Ministers consider those. But ESA is not a contrivance to thrash around the world, demonstrating the extraordinary potential and capabilities of a cohesive European group of countries. It is about the serious business of applying science, technology, and engineering for human benefit in space. And that is the big difference. And NASA will never get back to what it aspired to be and was in those first 3 years until it is liberated from political control.
Moving on from NASA, because we've got limited time this week. What else have you got going on at the moment, David?
Well, I'm very excited about what's happening in Rome in the middle of October, Matt. It's the Maker Faire Rome, the European edition of the International Maker Faire, which are a series of events which are held in different countries in order to celebrate and bring together creative, talented people making things all the way from art and craft right the way across into robotics, electronics, and into innovative ways of using technology at the macro and the micro level. And Don Iles, who was the guy who designed the Apollo guidance computer at MIT and worked to produce essentially the mechanisms by which Apollo crews in their spacecraft could navigate to the moon and back in the event that all communications were lost, and provided the technical base upon which the whole design of Apollo's guidance and navigation was built. He and I are going to be present at the Maker Faire, which is open in Rome between October 12 and 14. There will be thousands of people there from all over the world. They are huge meeting places. They're quite wild and wacky. They're not particularly formal, but Don and I are going to push forward on a huge 500 square meter area, which is purely dedicated to space. And the British Interplanetary Society is there right at the forefront. And I should mention the pioneering work of Fabrizio Bernardini, who heads up BIS Italia, our Italia branch. And so we will be there October 12 to 14, raising a flag for space and for all the innovative and creative capabilities that provides for ordinary individual people, not big firms and government organizations who want to get in on space and have creative and innovative ideas for applications as well as for ways to use space for the benefit of human beings all across the planet. So it's a tremendous fun time. Couldn't be a better venue. Rome is extraordinary. And in October, it's going to be lovely. The climate's going to be really, really nice. Don't quote me. But yes, go to Maker Faire, October 12 to 14, and we're going to be giving talks and everything. And I think I'm staying on to actually do some talks at Rome University. So it's big space time, and don't always think NASA, think Europe.
Yeah, that's really cool. So with makers, how long do you think it will be until people at maker fairs can build their own CubeSats?
I think it's only a matter of time, and bring it on, because I think it's long overdue.
Thank you very much for joining me again, David. That's been really interesting.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Take care. Enjoy Cornwall. Bye.
Cheers.
There we go. There's the David Baker chat.
He continues to be my favourite space legend, Matt.
I tell you what, I'm really fancy going to the Italian Maker Fair.
Let's go. Can we get pasta as well?
Oh, yes. Of course,
I
the
love
food
pasta,
will be...
Matt.
I love all it. I have to say, Italian food is pretty goddamn good.
It's pretty good, isn't it? It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So do you want to hear the answers?
Let's do it.
Spodcats, here come the answers. Which space agency spends the most money? Of course, it's NASA, who spend $21 billion a year.
It's a lot.
Yeah. ESA spends about $6 billion, just under $6 billion, right? But I spent a load of time adding up the populations of the 22 member states. Turns out ESA has 503 million people, right, from the member states, compared to 326 million people in the United States. So 503 million people. So ESA spends $12 a head, and NASA spends $64 a head. There you go.
Oh, it's fine, Matt. We just need to get ESA's credit card limit upped.
Yeah. So if ESA spent the same amount per head as NASA do, good grief, it would be ridiculous.
It would be a lot of money.
It'd be a lot of money. So, which has the most active satellites, ESA or NASA?
Matt.
Yeah, go.
It's NASA.
It's NASA with 42 or thereabouts compared to ESA's 13 or thereabouts.
We're creeping up. We're
creeping up. So,
Matt, what about astronauts currently in space?
Astronauts currently in space. NASA has. Well, I'm gonna dig down into these active satellite ones first because I think there's some because 42 and 13 in terms of the money spent, it's ESA have slightly better value. So for the money spent, we've got slightly more satellites than NASA have in active. On orbit. So, 4 science ones compared to 17 that NASA has. 5 weather observation compared to 12 that NASA has. We've got 1 gamma ray telescope, and NASA's got 2. We've got 1 X-ray telescope, NASA's got 3. 1 visible telescope, NASA has 3. They also have a UV telescope, but we had the gravitational wave telescope, sort of. Even though it was a tester. They've got 2 infrared and 2 particle detectors on top. But of course, we share the Hubble telescope. It's an ESA-NASA thing, that. So that's
I love that we share it.
Good. And of course, the same with James Webb Space Telescope is...
We get it on Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah. Canada gets it on Tuesdays, and the United States get it on all the other days. So, astronauts currently in space. What's the numbers, Jamie?
Oh, I'm going to hazard a guess, Matt, that it's 3... Well, it's 3 NASA astronauts, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then it's just is it the 1?
It's just
ESA?
The 1 ESA, of course.
Do I get a prize?
You do. You do get a prize. It's old Alexander Gerst, he's up there. Right, yeah, so 3-1. However... We spend a lot less money, so in actual fact, again, we got slightly better value for money there. Launch vehicles. Now, this one's funny. What do you think? What's the numbers?
What? Surely it's NASA.
No.
What?
I make it that NASA doesn't have a launch vehicle at the moment. And I make it that the European Space Agency has 2. I think you can count. You can definitely count Vega and Ariane, and Ariane 5. I think you can count as well.
Yeah.
So there's 2 ESA launch vehicles. They're controlled by ESA, and they are, ESA's launch vehicles. Whereas NASA Yeah, they don't have a launch vehicle at the moment.
Well, there you go.
Not that I don't even
Who'd
know
have
if that,
thought?
I don't even know if
Who'd have
that's
thunk?
I don't even know if it's a good or a bad thing. I think
Please let us know if Matt's got that wrong.
Yeah.
Because we
Well,
love a correction.
I think that's super contentious, that particular statistic. And
We'll
then,
find out.
Now, this is one where I think NASA shows some absolute. This is where they kick ass, to be fair. Interplanetary missions and probes. So NASA have got 2 en route. ESA have got none en route. NASA have got 2 at the moon. ESA have got none. NASA have got 3 at Mars. ESA have got 2. NASA have got 2 Mars rovers actively working. ESA have got none. Damn, if only Beagle 2 was working, we could have had 1. Asteroid mission. NASA, of course, have got 1. ESA have got none ever since Rosetta. Of course, it's quite annoying because a lot of the ESA ones have just finished. Round the sun, NASA have got 1. Outer solar system, this is where NASA are really kicking.
Oh, yeah.
4. They've got
Kicking ass.
4 out in the outer solar system.
4.
Juno, the Voyagers. Oh, man. So, so in terms of interplanetary missions, I make it NASA 15, ESA 2. Oof. So, yeah, NASA getting definitely good value for money there. Well done, NASA.
Well done.
So I think
suppose.
on a head-to-head, NASA are still slightly ahead of ESA. But then ESA actually do have the countries like Italy, France, Germany do have their own satellites up as well. So the member states have got like stuff up.
Well, Matt.
Yeah.
Wait till the UK are up and running.
Oh, yes. Yeah? And then
we're going to be like, they're going to be against the ropes, let me tell you.
Big time. Jamie, I've been doing, because I've been on holiday, I've been doing lots and lots of brilliant interviews.
What have you been doing?
So, coming up is John Krause, who's, of course,
awesome.
The photographic legend that is John Krause, whose photos are on the front covers of magazines. And
wow, that would be close to your heart, Matt, as a keen astrophotographer.
Exactly. So it was really interesting little chat with him. And we did that on the Patreon Discord channel, which was fun. Never done. It was. I'll tell you what, the sound quality was better than Skype. And
Matt, shout out to our patrons.
Yeah, and people could join in. So that was really good. So people were asking questions. Some of his patrons were on the channel as well. So that was really cool.
Huge.
I've got an interview with Kate from the Planetary Society in London because she's off to spend a few weeks locked up in Lunaris, which is another moon analog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's in Lunaris. So I've got an interview before, and we're going to interview her after. And so
that's going to be ace.
That's ace, isn't it? And today I interviewed. And annoyingly, you were there, but you couldn't hear because of technical difficulties.
Damn technology again, Matt. It's got us.
Yeah. Was Bernard Chemoul. He is the Inspector General of CNES at the moment, the French space agency. But he's been the boss of the Guyana Space Centre. He's been the head of project directorate of space transportation, etc. So this guy, it's really, really brilliant chat with him because he's done so many things. And
more,
I also did an interview with Miles Carden, who's the spaceport director of Spaceport Cornwall. And man,
I literally can't wait for that one.
No, it's brilliant. I have to say, I'm really excited about UK launch. It's just really, 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 really cool. So there's some brilliant interviews coming up. And of course, we've got the 100th episode of the podcast coming up. Live at Arthur C. Clarke House in Vauxhall with special guests.
Music.
There's going to be music there. And, of course, your demonstration with a bowling ball and a skateboard.
Will there also be snacks?
There'll be snacks, there'll be nibbles, glasses of wine.
What's the difference between a nibble and a snack?
Nibble, I think, are things like those Marmite things, what are they called? And snacks are like mini Cornish pasties.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
Noted.
Noted.
We'll have both.
Yeah.
So really exciting, guys. Please check that out on the day, which is 28th of September. If you're in London, get yourself down. It's going to be a ball.
I can't wait.
That's it.
That's it.
Done. Dusted.
Done and dusted. Just get yourself down. If you can't make it down, then you can watch it live on YouTube because we'll be streaming it.
Yes, you can. This is big time, Matt.
Jamie.
Well, that's it.
You've been listening to the Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
Oh, god damn. I'm so hungover, everyone.
Right.
Have a great day.
Spotcat.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.